everybody. It is Friday. It is 4 days to go, and the finish line is now in sight. The candidates enter the final weekend of a race unlike any we have ever seen, gearing up for their closing arguments. So again, watch the map and watch the message. Good morning, everybody. I'm Bill Hemmer, live here in America's newsroom. When did this start? 15 months ago? Was that right?
Who can remember? An escalator ride a couple summers ago, something like that. Yes. Good morning, Bill. Good morning, everybody. I'm Martha McCallum. So let's take a look at where everybody is today, because it tells you quite a lot. They are all over the critical battleground states, of course. You've got Donald Trump spending the day. In the morning, he starts in New Hampshire. Then he will go to Ohio. And then he will go to Pennsylvania. 3 states that would make him very happy on election night. Mike Pence, where's he today? Let's take a look. He's in Michigan, which is one that Trump would need to flip. North Carolina, which is very, very tight and leaning towards Hillary. And Florida, which is neck and neck right now. Let's take a look at Hillary Clinton's day. She will be crisscrossing Pennsylvania, Michigan. She'll be in Detroit. And Ohio as well today, where there are new concerns for the Democrats and African-American turnout, one of the big issues that everybody's watching in terms of demographics in this race. Tim Kaine's got the pretty easy day of the group. He is going to make a stop in Florida, maybe more than one stop. We'll find out as he continues to roll along.
This as we watch this tracking poll, which today shows Clinton with a 2-point lead. At the beginning of this week, Trump was up a point, so that's all still within the margin of error. With so little time left, both candidates hitting on their opponent this way.
What I have is a winning temperament. I have a winning temperament. Hillary is an unstable person. She is I think she's probably spent $500 million on phony ads. Best thing I have is my temperament. We know how to win.
Someone who at another rally yesterday actually said out loud to himself, "Stay on point, Donald, stay on point." His campaign probably put that in the teleprompter. Stay on point, Donald. Stay on point.
This is what it looks like with just a few days to go out there. Senior national correspondent John Roberts live in Atkinson, New Hampshire. That's where Donald Trump is going to start the first rally of the day about 3 hours from now. Good morning to you, John.
Martha, good morning to you. In answer to Bill's question, I'll tell you when this all started, November 5th, 2012. We're just hoping it's all over November 8th, 2016, because there is the potential between New Hampshire and Maine for this whole thing to end up in a 269-269 tie, which then would put us into a realm that none of us have seen before, at least in our lifetimes. Things looking better for Donald Trump here in the Granite State than they have in the past week. About a week ago, Hillary Clinton was up 7 to 9 points. Let's put up the results of a new Boston Globe poll that finds it's all even up here in New Hampshire. 42 points apiece. This morning, Donald Trump's first rally here at the Atkinson Country Club and Resort. He'll be obviously talking a lot about Hillary Clinton's problems with her email, the FBI investigations. Yesterday in Selma, North Carolina, telling a very heavily military crowd that Hillary Clinton, the way she dealt with this unsecured server and all of those emails, really was disrespecting the sacrifice that they have made to this nation. Here's what Trump said last night.
She was more interested in keeping her emails a secret than in keeping our classified intelligence a secret. She was more interested in protecting herself than in protecting the people of the United States. Ending this criminal government corruption is one of the most important reasons you have to go out on November 8th.
You mentioned that ABC tracking poll a second ago. Indications are that Hillary Clinton may be beginning to gain back some momentum, even in the face of these withering attacks from Donald Trump. So it may be, Martha, that he has to change gears here in the last 4 days, something he might zone in on today, the disappointing jobs number with only 161,000 jobs created. He may use that as part of his closing argument today. Martha?
Very important, those closing arguments, as people get ready to head to the polls in just a few days. His wife, Melania, was out in Philadelphia, in the outskirts of Philadelphia on the main line yesterday. She gave her first solo speech in the course of this whole campaign. Talk to us about that, John.
And the first speech since the one that she had at the Republican convention back in July, where it didn't go over as well as people thought because of the problems with borrowing some lines from Michelle Obama. But yesterday's speech got rave reviews, particularly from the candidate himself, who was watching it on his aircraft as he was on his way to North Carolina. Melania Trump really tried to energize Republican women in the collar counties surrounding Philadelphia. They really need to try to get the vote up there in Pennsylvania, saying that if she becomes First Lady, she will make her signature issue combating cyberbullying. Listen to what she said yesterday.
We have to find a better way to talk to each other, to disagree with each other, to respect each other. We must find better ways to honor and support the basic goodness of our children, especially in social media.
They're still talking about Melania Trump doing maybe 2-3 speeches before Election Day, but really time is kind of running out on that, Martha. One thing that we do know is going to happen tomorrow, Mike Pence, Donald Trump's running mate, will be in Wisconsin campaigning side by side with Paul Ryan. So that'll be an interesting image for the campaign as we close it out here. Martha?
He's clearly been a very strong advocate on the campaign trail for the top of the ticket. Thank you very much, John. See you later.
So then what concerns Team Trump 4 days out? Reince Priebus, chairman of the RNC, the Republican National Committee, with me now out of D.C. And, sir, thank you for coming back here in America's Newsroom. Crunch time. Here we go.
Thank you, Bill.
What concerns you?
You know, everything concerns me. I'm a pretty obsessive person, so, I mean, everything concerns me, whether it's early vote, absentee, or Election Day activity, things we don't know that may happen tomorrow or the next day, everything, you know.
Okay, well, let me try and help.
That's what I do. I worry.
Let me try and help you out a little bit. Okay, New Hampshire poll overnight had them tied at 42-42. Among independents, 52% in that survey from the Boston Globe suggest they are less likely to vote for Hillary Clinton because of the FBI investigation. How do you see that playing out now?
Well, I mean, it's what the message has been the entire time. It's what Donald Trump's been talking about, is that someone that was in a position, which is one of the highest positions that you could have in our entire country. She couldn't be trusted with the most basic task of being Secretary of State, which is to protect information and protect our secrets, and she couldn't do it. Now, I mean, talk about a wild year, that her potentially this classified information, which we know we're getting reports now that it's true, ended up on a computer of Anthony Weiner, who's being investigated for sexting with a minor. I mean, this is how wild this is. So the Secretary of State and our national secrets are in Anthony Weiner's laptop. And so it goes to the heart of what this issue is all about. I mean, if you want to talk about risk, anytime you have a changed election, risk is part of the equation. The fact that we would put in a person like Hillary Clinton, who destroyed the Russian, you know, she said we were going to have a Russian reset, 20% of the world's uranium, Libya, Benghazi, Iraq, I mean, you name it. Emails. Now, Clinton Foundation, through credible reporting, is being investigated for her selling her position.
I get the emails every day from the RNC about where you think you're doing well. I get the emails from the DNC every day doing the same. Democrats say right now in North Carolina, Mecklenburg County, which is Charlotte, big early turnout there. Barack Obama won that county overwhelmingly 4 years ago. Nevada, they believe they are strong there as well. In Florida, in the southeast, they're bragging already about a strong Hispanic vote. If Nevada and North Carolina and Florida, or perhaps you can make the case that you could pick any one of those, goes for Hillary Clinton, that makes your job very tough for Donald Trump to be the president.
Well, right, but the problem, Bill, is it's not true what you said. I mean, so let's just take each one of those. First of all, voting is up among Republicans in Nevada, and voting is down for Democrats. Let's look at North Carolina. North Carolina, keep in mind, for everyone out there, on Election Day 4 years ago, we were down 455,000 votes on Election Day. We won North Carolina. Second thing to keep in mind about that. So first of all, they're off by about 150,000 votes right now as of today than they were 4 years ago. So I'm not sure how they can look at doing 150,000 votes worse in North Carolina and say, oh, we're winning North Carolina. Yeah, you're winning early vote North Carolina, but you're way off of where you need to be, and we're way up. Same in Florida. We're ahead in Florida by 15,000 votes. They were ahead by 60,000 votes 4 years ago. So they can cherry pick here and there and say, oh, in Jefferson County, boy, we've got a 10% turnout. It's not going to cut it. Okay. They're behind almost everywhere where they need to be.
We will talk to the Democrats next hour on these very exact points. Final question.
Yeah.
As it stands today, will Republicans maintain the majority in the Senate?
Yeah, as it stands today, we will.
By how many?
And a lot of it. I don't want to put a number on it, but I think certainly 51 or more, and I feel good that the number will be more. As of today, we will hold the Senate, absolutely.
Reince Priebus, thank you, sir. I know you've got another interview, so we'll cut you free now. Reince Priebus, head of the RNC.
Okay.
Thanks.
Just days before the election, the Labor Department says that employers added 161,000 jobs in October. Unemployment rate fell to 4.9%. These numbers are really pretty lukewarm. 175 was the projection for the non-farm payrolls number, so it was lower than expected. Meanwhile, the real unemployment number is at 9.5% because you've got so many people who've just dropped out of the labor market. It includes people who work part-time for economic reasons and the so-called marginally attached. Those are people who aren't counted in the labor force because they, as we said, haven't really looked for a job in quite some time. So 9.5, the real unemployment rate.
He's down here campaigning for crooked Hillary. Now, why isn't he back in the office, sometimes referred to as the Oval Office? Why isn't he back in the White House bringing our jobs back?
All right, from the office to your home, Donald Trump hitting President Obama now. The president stumping for Hillary Clinton in that home stretch. Trump now calling him the campaigner-in-chief. One in a million, Fox News political analyst, author of We the People, and Mercedes Schlapp, former media spokeswoman for President George W. Bush. Mercy, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Juan Williams, good morning to you.
Good morning,
You know what's intriguing is that Hillary Clinton will be in Detroit, Michigan at 1 o'clock this afternoon, Juan.
Right.
Michigan. On Monday, she will meet with the Obama family in Philadelphia, the day before the final vote. And we watch the map and we see where you go. Like all that talk about Arizona and Texas and Georgia, you don't hear about it anymore.
Well, those are red states. I mean, the idea was to stretch the map for Hillary Clinton. Now I think as you come down to the finish line, Bill, what they're trying to do is make sure that they stir the vote, the base vote that they have in both cities, you know, large African-American populations. And again, what we've seen in terms of the reporting is that the turnout there has not matched what was there in 2012. So I think what you're seeing is really making sure that they get that big turnout.
All right, Mercy, what do you think about that?
Well, you know, I think for Hillary Clinton, Obama is by far, and Michelle, the most effective surrogates that they have on the campaign trail, especially for motivating that base of the African-American community. We've seen, for example, in North Carolina that about 71,000 fewer African-Americans have voted in early voting. The enthusiasm factor is simply not there for Hillary Clinton from the African-American community. This is about rebuilding that Obama coalition, the women, the young voters, the minorities. So I think for the most part, for Hillary Clinton, you know, she's going to hone in on these battleground states, particularly in case of Michigan and Pennsylvania, which she cannot afford to lose.
That's right.
And that you're seeing in the polls that it's
You know,
tightening.
Mercedes, I don't know what the story is on Wednesday. You know, if she wins, I mean, is it the women who come out and support her in suburban counties? Is it the Hispanic vote in Florida, North Carolina? Or if he wins, is it the polls that missed that silent Trump vote? Michael Moore, of all people, was on MSNBC this morning. And he said, you go home to Michigan, there are a lot of people he knows that are voting for Trump. And he reminded viewers on the day of the Democratic primary, she was up by double digits.
That's right.
And what happened? She lost. Bernie Sanders swept Michigan. Take that, Mercedes.
Yeah, I think this is why this election has been so unpredictable, so unconventional. There is this swell out there, this support out there for Donald Trump that I do believe is silent. I mean, I even talking to Republican friends that won't vocally say they're going to vote for Donald Trump are calling and saying, guess what? When I get into that voting booth, I cannot have Hillary Clinton as our president based on everything that we've seen from the corruption, from her corruption to the FBI probes. I mean, the list is very long. And I think, you know, for Hillary Clinton, her key is going to be in those urban communities. It's hoping to see that she can bring out the minority votes. And that's what they're counting on. And they feel very optimistic in that sense. But I think for Donald Trump, I call it organic voting. It's this movement, these thousands of people coming out, millions of people coming out in supporting him that might not say it vocally, but when they get to the voting booth are saying we can't have him.
I think that's a lot of, you know, Mercedes, I think that's a lot of wishful thinking, conspiratorial type thinking. People won't admit it. Look, what people think,
no way.
What people think, Mercedes, is that this person, Donald Trump, is not qualified to be president, not temperamentally suited to be president. Hang on, Mercedes, I let you go on, please. But what I'm saying to you is when you hear Donald Trump engage in the kind of schoolyard bully tactics that, oh, these are stupid people running the country. President Obama is the most popular right now of any president ending his second term. And what we just saw in terms of the unemployment rate, 4.9%, Mitt Romney said he'd get it down to 6%. So lots of people have lots to say, especially this coming weekend. It's a frenzy. But I want to tell you the numbers are pretty clear in terms of who people think is qualified to be president.
Right now, everybody's right because we don't know what the results are. Mercedes, quickly, wrap it up.
Well, you know, I think we got to think back of the fact that the momentum is shifting towards Trump. I think the enthusiasm factor is with Trump. And I think that there's this reality that, yes, Hillary Clinton, is she organized? Absolutely. Is she pushing this for this minority vote and this women vote to come out? Absolutely. But I think you can't just disregard the fact that there is, I think, that group of silent voters out there who could really make an impact on this race.
You heard what Reince Priebus just said, right? He's worried about everything.
Yeah. You gotta be worried.
It's his job.
I think he's worried about people who aren't silent, but who are actually voting. That's what he's worried about.
All right, well, we'll see you at 5 o'clock. Mercedes, see you soon. Thanks for both of you.
Take care.
Okay. Rip another day off the calendar. We're now 4 days to go until the presidential election, and despite some slippage, Hillary Clinton's blue wall does appear at the moment to be holding. So let's bring in Kyle Kondik, managing editor of Larry Sabato's Crystal Ball at the University of Virginia Center for Politics and the author of The Bellwether, Why Ohio Picks the President. Will that title still be true? And when this is over, we will see. That's an interesting question in and of itself at this moment, isn't it, Kyle? Good morning to you. Good to see you this morning. So when you look at this, and let's put up your latest electoral map on the screen here, you have Hillary Clinton at 293 and Donald Trump at 214, and you have only 31 toss-up states. So that looks like a pretty tough picture for Donald Trump. Is that the way you see it?
Yeah, I think so. If there's one thing on that map that may be alarming to the Clinton folks now as opposed to maybe yesterday is that we've got a bunch of polls back in New Hampshire, which is a potentially important for electoral votes. And they show basically a tie, which had not been the case for much of the rest of the previous part of the cycle. However, if you're looking at small states, it looks like the state of Nevada is a state that looked a little shakier for Clinton, and polls there still show Trump leading, but the early vote looks almost identical to 2012 in terms of the partisan makeup, which I think suggests that Clinton is probably favored out there. So there are a lot of states that are shaky right now for Clinton, but I think she still has the clearer path to 270 than Trump does.
Yeah, I mean, when you go through this, if you add to the states that you have in Donald Trump's category at 214 and you add 31, you get to 245 if he won every single toss-up. So then he would have to pick off either Pennsylvania or Michigan or Wisconsin or New Hampshire or some combination of both, correct?
Yeah, that's right. And the other state that's really important to focus on is North Carolina. Of course, North Carolina voted for Obama in 2008, but Mitt Romney in 2012. That state also looks like it's very close. We lean it to Clinton right now, but if Trump were to win, I think he would carry North Carolina. And you mentioned Ohio. As we currently have it projected, this would be just the third time in 31 elections that Ohio did not vote for the winner. But I think Ohio is also very close. Hillary Clinton is going to be there with Jay-Z later today in Cleveland.
Oh, well, that should do it.
They're trying to maximize African American turnout in Cleveland, and I don't think that Ohio is necessarily in the bag for Trump either. So there's a lot of fluid things going on.
So when you dig into the crystal ball, which I did this morning, and you go into what you call the preponderance of polls, which is a look at who's been leading in each state in the period from September the 1st until the election, and you go back historically and you look at prior elections, basically the person who leads in each of those states over that time wins that state with extremely few exceptions, right?
That's right, and it's an important thing to think about with a state like New Hampshire. So we have a bunch of tied polls that came out just recently. But Clinton basically led every New Hampshire poll since Labor Day, and that's true, I think, in a lot of the Rust Belt battleground states, too, of Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania. And so if Trump were to win one or more of those states, it really would have come out of nowhere because the polling had not really indicated that until now in New Hampshire, and really not ever in some of those other states.
Yeah, so there's only 3 examples over the last 3 elections where a state where a person was not ahead, essentially, since September 1, they actually won that state. And in any of those cases, did that person who flipped that one state end up winning?
Obama, one of those instances is Florida in 2012,
right.
But Obama could have won without Florida in 2012, but it got him up to 332 electoral votes, which was a bigger victory than I think a lot of people thought going into Election Day on 2012. George W. Bush ended up, or John Kerry ended up very narrowly carrying Wisconsin in 2004, but of course Kerry ended up losing the election anyway. So. Again, if Trump were to come back and win, say, New Hampshire after trailing in almost all of the polls the whole cycle, it would be, historically a little bit different than what we're used to, but also not impossible. So
is there anything, everyone watches this thing and says it's like nothing that any of us have ever seen before. So is there a part of you that says, yeah, that's true?
Yeah, I think that's right, and I think that there still is a decent amount of uncertainty going into Election Day. I was just thinking back to 2012, and I think I probably was a little bit more confident at this point that Obama would win than Clinton now, but I also think that Clinton has been the favorite the whole time, and I think remains so. It's just that it's getting a little complicated here in the final week.
It could come down to that momentum question and whether or not that momentum happened early enough in the Trump campaign to make a difference. So we will see. Kyle, thank you very much. Thanks for filling in for Larry, who doesn't feel so well today, and we hope he's feeling better. Everybody's been burning the candle at the...
We're leading, just came out 2 minutes ago, 2 polls. We're leading in New Hampshire. We're sort of leading all over the place. It's a great honor.
There's Donald Trump talking about the polls, final days of the campaign. Jason Miller, Senior Communications Advisor for the Trump team, with us here in studio, and nice to see you. I'm going to put the map in motion, and we'll see if you agree or disagree or where, depending on where you go for votes. Okay, now here's the total, 270 of what you need. She's at 201, he's at 164. So let's just see right now about this blue wall for Hillary Clinton. It's Wisconsin, it's Michigan, it's Pennsylvania. If she goes there, she's at 247, Jason, and then is it Florida? That would give her the presidency. Is it Virginia in connection with maybe a Colorado? That would put her at 269. Does she pick up a Florida? That puts her easily over 270. The point is, she has a number of paths. And when you're at Trump Tower and you see this, you think about what?
Well, as does Mr. Trump. I'm going to show you why, if you're a Trump supporter, why you're excited going into this final 4-day stretch. First of all, I'd point out that the red states were keeping red. So as we talk Arizona, as we talk Georgia.
Okay, so I'll tick those off as you talk about them. Okay, you're saying Arizona and Georgia.
Yes, we're going to keep the red states red. We've seen the numbers move in excellent direction. Early voting and absentees are looking very good. Mr. Trump's doing everything that he needs to in those states. So our primary pathways, we talk about how we're going to get there. Yeah. We talk about the key swing states of Florida, North Carolina, and Ohio.
All right, let me just tick those, okay? So Ohio, Florida, and North Carolina.
Yep.
And right now, Jason, you're at 253. You're still behind.
So the other state that I'd point to, and Mr. Trump really isn't getting enough credit as he should for this one, the state of Iowa, a state that's gone blue the last couple of cycles. But Mr. Trump, we're very confident. New polling out today showing that Mr. Trump is up by 3 points in Iowa. We feel very good.
Okay, now you're at 259.
The numbers.
Where does your argument go next?
The state of Nevada, where we're going to be back to this weekend. Early numbers look very good for Mr. Trump. We're ahead of the pace for where the ticket was 4 years ago. Internal polling, external polling, all looking good. Even when your rival networks had a poll out this week showing Mr. Trump ahead by 6 points in Nevada.
Okay, well, you know, Democrats are bragging about Clark County, okay?
Well,
they feel really good in Nevada, but okay, I'll give that to you, and now you're at 265. Where else do you go?
The state of Maine, which actually splits up their electoral votes based on the congressional district. We're confident that we're going to get the electoral vote coming out of Maine's 2nd congressional district.
Which is in the north.
Yep.
So largely rural.
So that would be one electoral
So now
vote.
you're at 266.
Now we're at 266. This is where the fun starts. And this is where, if you look at where Mr. Trump's campaign is now, as opposed to where we were 2 weeks ago, we're in very good shape and we're very optimistic. We talk about this blue wall. Let's, first and foremost, let's go. Now we need to talk about one state. I think Mr. Trump will do well and power through and get a whole bunch of wins here. But what we need to show are a number of pathways, and this is where it's grown. Look at the state of New Hampshire, 4 electoral votes. We believe that yesterday 3 new polls.
Can I show you something?
Yep.
All right, New Hampshire. This is what we got overnight. Boston Globe. He leads by 0.4% in that poll. You put all the polls together, flip it one time, guys, for the Real Clear average in New Hampshire. Trump's up 1.5 points. That's the case you're making now, correct?
The blue wall is crumbling, and it starts right there in New Hampshire. We're going to see in the Eastern time zone these returns coming in. Mr. Trump will be in New Hampshire. I believe we're going to be there 3 more times today, and then 2 more times before the election. You talk about New Hampshire. That's one pathway. A couple other states I'll point to. The state of Colorado. We show the race as being a dead heat. Colorado is now a mail-in only state, similar to Washington and the state
Not
of Oregon.
entirely, but largely.
Almost entirely. You can still go show up on election day and turn yours in, so there is time for people to go and deliver.
Let me just show our viewers in Colorado what we're seeing, okay? In Colorado, if this is right, not a whole lot of polling out of the Rocky Mountain State. 39 Clinton, 39 Trump. Put all the averages together for Colorado. Again, not a lot of polling, but she would have the edge based on what we're seeing so far. Just shy of 43%.
But it's tight. We're showing it a dead heat race. In the top 10 counties in the state, of 7 out of those 10 counties, the Republican ballots return are higher than the average for the others, for Democrats and for independents. So we're seeing the growth there, especially over the past 4 or 5 days, ever since her bombshell scandal last week. Colorado's really picked up for ballots returned. Let me stay out west for one moment. One other state, the state of New Mexico. This is a state that has solidly been described as being blue. We show it as us being slightly ahead. I believe Mr. Trump is going to win the state of New Mexico, and this is one that Democrats, I think, fell asleep on. And don't just listen to me. Hillary Clinton is back on TV advertising in New Mexico because they're worried that they're going to lose it.
Okay, now we've got Democrats coming up in 30 minutes, okay? But you're talking Colorado, which would put you well over 270, okay, if that scenario plays out. But what they're going to argue in 30 minutes is that North Carolina is looking very good for them. Charlotte, Raleigh, if you lose North Carolina, that's just one state now, Jason. You're back below the mark, even if we're giving you the edge in every argument you're making right now.
Let me tell you why we're excited, because now that we have a number of different pathways. Look at the state of Pennsylvania, which is largely election day only voting. Mr. Trump will be there today. He'll be there 2 more times before the polls close on Tuesday. This is a state where, again, don't just listen to what we're saying. The fact that the Clintons are doing their election eve party with the Obamas, with everybody in Philadelphia, they're worried about the state of Pennsylvania. We believe that we can beat her in Pennsylvania on election day. And if we do that, even if your Democratic strategist coming on makes the case that maybe one of these states they can pick away, if Mr. Trump wins Pennsylvania, he's the president of the United States.
You're in Manchester, New Hampshire on Monday night, the site of the first primary victory, and she has chosen Philly. Jason, thanks for coming in today. From the Trump team, we'll see who's right. Thank you, Jason.
Thank you.
All right, Martha.
Count them, just 4 days to go now until America picks a new president of the United States. How about that? Candidates are fanning out. They're across the country, working very hard in these final days in those battleground states. The newest polls show this race, guess what? It's too close to call. Too close to call. We're going to hear quite a bit of that, I think, on Tuesday night. Waiting for this state, waiting for that state, too close to call. It's going to be fascinating. So welcome, everybody. Hour 2 now of America's Newsroom. I'm Martha McCallum.
And I'm Bill Hemmer on a Friday. Good morning. Donald Trump closing in on Hillary Clinton in some of these battleground matchups. Here is today's national tracking poll from ABC News. We watch it every day. It's been tight all week. Hillary Clinton leading by 2 at 47 to 45%. And now for both of them, the closing arguments are underway.
When I look at these great admirals and these great generals and these great Medal of Honor recipients behind me, to think of her being their boss? I don't think so.
The presidency doesn't change who you are. It reveals who you are. I think it's fair to say that my opponent has already revealed who he is.
So let's bring in Chris Wallace, who's already revealed who he is as the anchor of Fox News Sunday.
I hope
Chris,
not.
if you're in New York, it means we're getting pretty close.
That's true.
Welcome.
I don't spend any extra time here. But can I just say something about those two bites? And it's why I think so many people want this race to be over. If you believe what they're saying about each other, this is a choice between a crook and a creep. And you didn't see anything about issues, anything about how this person is going to make America better, what their plans are on the economy or national security or health care or education. It's a very dispiriting campaign.
Yeah, I mean, it's true. And when you look at this and you talk to people out there, you hear so much of that. So whoever wins this race is going to have a lot on their plate because they're going to have to try to mend this country in a way that I don't think we've seen in a long time. And you've been covering campaigns for a long time, as most of us have. But you know, when you
but I go back about 100 years
okay,
before
maybe
you
a little
do.
bit more. But when you look at this, and I asked the Brain Room to pull up some information on, you know, have we ever been in this situation where the person who has been ahead, really, the whole way through, ends up losing? And the only time it's happened is 1980, where they were this close. Talk to me about how this race feels to you at this moment based on what you've seen in the past.
Well, it doesn't feel like 1980 yet, and I was there in 1980. I was covering Reagan against Carter, and people were very unhappy with Carter, and the economy was in shambles.
But he was still ahead.
The Iranian hostages, but he was still ahead. But then they had that debate 1 week beforehand, and when people were satisfied that Ronald Reagan could be president, and he did the there you go again thing, it just flipped. And you could tell the day after the debate that the country had flipped and it was going very much to Reagan. I don't feel that this time. But clearly it's tightening, but there isn't that kind of tidal wave, and there still are a lot of doubts about Donald Trump, as there continue to be about Hillary Clinton. It's tightening, and he could win, but I will say it's going to be a tough path. He's got about one path to 270 electoral votes. Everything's got to go right for him. She's got several paths.
I see. He's got to be perfect plus.
Right.
Absolutely perfect on the toss-ups, and then plus something that he feels away from her.
He's got to flip a traditionally Democratic state.
Exactly. I'm interested in the vice presidents a little bit. You know, we all know it's not about the vice presidents, but when you look at these two individuals, Mike Pence has served to kind of stabilize in some ways Donald Trump. They've been using him a lot. He's in 3 states today. Tim Kaine only making 1 stop in the state of Florida. What, if any, has the impact been of this ticket, of these 2 tickets together, do you see?
I think Pence has been much more important to Trump than Kaine has been to Clinton, because there are a lot of traditional Republicans who have concerns about Trump. We certainly know that, and they're slowly coming back, which is one of the reasons this race is tightening. I think that Pence, as a steady presence on the campaign trail, unflappable, strong in the debate against Tim Kaine, has been helpful, sort of certifying that there are, if you have doubts about Trump, that there are other steady presences there who will make this administration successful and reliably conservative. I don't know that Clinton needed as much help. I think Kaine probably helps a little bit, particularly with Hispanics, and the fact that he made a speech the other day entirely in Spanish. But I don't think she needs that kind of help from a running mate that he needs. I suppose marginally he may help in the swing state of Virginia, where he's been a governor and a senator, but frankly she was probably going to win that anyway.
Yeah. In terms of Melania Trump, who came out yesterday and gave a speech which was fairly well received, you wonder sort of where she's been and where some of the, argument would have been for putting her out earlier. Because when you sort of fast forward and you say, on each side, what would they have done differently? That might be something.
Yeah, but I got to say, I have a kind of a mixed reaction to Melania Trump's speech. I think she did great. I think she's an impressive woman, and she made an impressive speech. But the subject, and it's obviously what she believes in, which is cyberbullying and civility, you sort of say, is she making that speech
absolutely. I was doing
or for Trump?
2 o'clock show yesterday when she was doing it, and that was one of the first things that we said when we watched it. It's uncomfortable to hear her talk about bullying online when we've seen all these examples happen. I think if she had added even 1 line that said, and I've dealt with this at home,
Well, I'm not sure that would have been such a good thing.
But I mean, she has, and she's been very open about the fact that she has spoken to her husband about tweeting, and that, she thinks it's better off when he doesn't get near Twitter or respond to things or retweet, as she said in one interview. I think she could have kind of poked a hole in that criticism quite easily yesterday, but she does come across as very sincere, and she's an immigrant who tells her own story about how she came here legally, which I think, may have served him well if they had used her a little bit more earlier on.
I agree. I agree. That particular issue, though, made me think that Hillary Clinton could run that speech and then say, I approve that message. So.
Chris, thank you very much. Look forward to having you here.
May I say we got a show on Sunday?
Do you really? Yes,
and
please do.
We're going to be speaking to the aforementioned Mike Pence, the running mate for Donald Trump, will be on the show. We're hoping to get Tim Kaine or some top official. We're going to debut, you'll be very jealous of this, we debut the Fox News super-duper election set. Yes, no, we get it first, Bill. No, because it's Fox News
We're all
Sunday.
fighting over this new studio.
And we're going to have Karl Rove crunching the numbers. We will tell you exactly where the race stands 48 hours ahead of time. And did I mention from the brand new election headquarters?
Well, that's fine. We'll be around. We'll look for that. We're going to be here also.
It'll be used by the time
1 o'clock in the afternoon, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and of course, Mr. Sunday owning the main territory on that day. Chris, thank you.
We
Good to see you.
call that anchor envy there, Wallace.
Exactly.
Go gentle on that new place. Nice to see you, Chris. The Clinton team now bringing out the big guns, calling on top surrogates, including former opponent Bernie Sanders. The Vermont senator joining Clinton yesterday in North Carolina when this went down.
This election's been a lot more fun now that we're on the same side. Every social movement, every economic advance has only come about because people were willing to work and sacrifice.
Mike Emanuel, senior correspondent, live in Pittsburgh today. Allegheny County looks beautiful. So Clinton's bringing out the star power. What's her final argument to close the deal? First Pittsburgh, then Detroit later. Go, Mike.
Well, that's right, Bill. Hillary Clinton trying to tap into that star power, trying to energize the people she needs to win the White House. Jay-Z will headline a Get Out the Vote concert for her in Cleveland tonight. Katy Perry will headline a rally in Philadelphia for Hillary Clinton tomorrow night. Yesterday, it was entertainer Pharrell Williams campaigning with Clinton in battleground North Carolina. Clinton says she's ready to take the baton from President Obama to carry on his legacy.
We need to make sure we deliver on that promise. And in this election, President Obama's entire legacy is on the line. Everything that he has worked so hard to do against implacable opposition.
What's not clear is if the celebrities and VIP surrogates can share or transfer their popularity to Hillary Clinton in the final days.
So traditionally these races tighten at the end, and it would appear that's the case now, right, Mike?
No question about that. Very close race and in some interesting places as well. The CBS New York Times poll reveals a very close race heading into the final weekend of this campaign. Clinton 45%, Trump 42%. Here in Pennsylvania, the Real Clear Politics average has Clinton with a 3-point edge, 46.8 to 43.8. Then there's Michigan. Former President Bill Clinton has spent part of 2 days in Michigan this week. Hillary Clinton is heading there today, and so perhaps it's a little too close for comfort there in Michigan, and you've got the Clinton team working to make sure there are no surprises in Pennsylvania or Michigan on Tuesday night.
Right on. Thank you, Mike Emanuel, live in Pittsburgh, where he begins his day. Thank you, Mike. To travel. This in light of early voting data that shows the black turnout falling short of the mark set by President Obama from 4 years ago. R.T. Ryback, Vice Chair of the Democratic National Committee and former mayor of Minneapolis, who is at home in Minnesota. How you doing, Mayor? Good morning to you, and thanks for coming on today on America's Newsroom.
Happy to be here.
Reince Priebus was making a strong case that all of the data and the emails that the DNC is putting out do not necessarily match up with what they're seeing on the ground. Here's Priebus from last hour to get it going. Watch here.
Yeah, you're winning early vote in North Carolina, but you're way off of where you need to be, and we're way up. They can cherry pick here and there and say, oh, in Jefferson County, boy, we've got a 10% turnout. It's not going to cut it. They're behind almost everywhere where they need to be.
All right, now your turn. Go ahead. What's the state of the race?
Good. It's a nice thing for him to say, but let's face the facts. African Americans are overwhelmingly supporting Hillary Clinton, and the fact that Clinton is within 1 point in Georgia, where there, by the way, happen to be a lot of African American voters powering that, is one good example. Now, he says don't look at individual areas, but that's kind of what elections are about. So look at the early vote that's ticked up yesterday in North Carolina. But let's look at one where it's behind. Let's look at Cleveland, okay? I know those voters well because the Sunday before the election in 2012, I stood with thousands of African-American voters who had been disenfranchised by the Republican Secretary of State. The DNC sued. We got their right to vote. They stood there in the rain. They weren't moving for hours, and they're not going to this time, even though there is now only one early voting site in the entire Cleveland metro area because they keep trying to suppress that. So congratulations.
Okay,
you helped suppress that. But let me finish this, Bill, because it's important.
All right.
It's an important point. Early voting is one way of indicating that. So those voters who had more trouble voting early, I looked in their eye in 2012. They will be showing up because they know exactly what disenfranchised means, and they know why this matters.
Okay, I'm looking at the map, and we're crunching the numbers. We're trying to pull in all sorts of data and try and figure out what this thing looks like come Tuesday night or Wednesday morning.
Right.
I see a poll in New Hampshire where it's got a dead even tie. And that same poll from the Boston Globe, it shows that among independents, 52% are less likely to vote for Hillary Clinton because of the FBI investigation. The question then leads us to this. What is the effect of that story on Tuesday's turnout?
Well, the polling I've seen hasn't shown a big switch on it, but let's really get regrounded in this. Hillary Clinton will be not only the most qualified president to ever take office, but she is also the one we know more about than any other presidential candidate has ever run. Every email, every phone number is all out there. So people know what they are getting with Hillary Clinton. We don't even know Donald Trump's tax returns. You know, I'd love to see his emails. I'd love to see his emails just from 3 a.m. to 4 a.m. The fact of the matter is people know what they're getting in Hillary Clinton. And as we focus on the final days, the message is...
know about Trump, too. Now, listen, we were...
No, actually, they don't. But what we don't know about his ties to Russian business, we don't know about his tax returns. The first candidate in American history to not release their tax returns. I'm sure
Hillary
not
Clinton,
20, 30 years.
I just want to squeeze this in. This is very important, too, because you were talking about Cuyahoga County. 3-1 Democrats in that county, northern Ohio. Very important to winning the state, be it a Democrat or Republican. Hillary Clinton is going to Detroit, Michigan today. She is in Philadelphia on Monday. Is that smart politics, or do those two moves show us where they believe the race is right now? In Michigan and in Pennsylvania?
Most politicians I know start with solidifying their base and do a closing argument and solidifying the base. But, you know, I frankly don't think you should read a whole lot into where they are. There's a game, head fakes and all sorts of things about where people are going. But I'm happy she's making a final case in Pennsylvania and in Michigan. Those are good places to go. She was in Arizona before. The fact of the matter is these last-minute polls are showing a lot of bounce. Hillary was within a couple points in Alaska the other day. So the fact of the matter is we're not as unsophisticated as we used to be. The national polls don't matter. The surgical targeted strikes that we look at and what was the key to the Obama victories is the same sort of ground game that's going on with the Clinton team. The Clinton and the Obama teams have teamed up, and they've got the best ground game ever. We're going to win this election because we know one person's prepared to be president and one isn't.
Mayor, thank you for coming in today. R.T. Ryback this hour, Ryan's previous last hour. We'll see what happens, right? I mean, you made your case. We'll see who's right. Thank you, sir, for your time today out of Minneapolis. You bet. 20 past. Martha?
Meanwhile, there's fierce fighting going on in Mosul as anti-ISIS forces push deeper into that city now. This is word that the terror army may actually be turning on some of its own fighters. More coming up.
Also, Melania Trump is on the trail. Her first big campaign appearance since the convention. Is she Donald Trump's secret weapon? And if so, did she wait too long to hit the trail? We'll talk about it.
So Donald Trump rolling out a not-so-secret weapon in the final stretch of the race for the White House. His wife, Melania Trump, made a rare solo campaign appearance yesterday in Pennsylvania. Here's some of that.
As Donald travels the country, he has asked some simple but very important questions. Do we want a president who is beholden to no one but you, the American people?
Tony Zag is Republican strategist. Julie Roginski is a Democratic strategist, and both are Fox News contributors. Hi, guys.
Hi.
Good morning, Martha.
Good to see you. So let me start with you, Julie. How do you think she did yesterday?
I thought she did well. You know, I think the topic is a little not self-aware. I think talking about internet bullying when her husband has maybe not been the best actor in that issue, and she herself has not been a great actor in that issue with respect to a reporter named Julia Yaffe who wrote a profile of her that she considered to be unfair, and she, when asked about why trolls were trolling Julia Yaffe, said she brought it on herself. So, you know, I'm not sure that the Trumps, both of them, are great messengers on this issue, but it is an important topic. I wish people would take it more seriously.
They've lived the attacks on both sides and have fought back. Maybe there are some things that they might regret about the way they did that, but I think it's a pretty serious issue in the country, especially when it comes to teenagers, and she was talking primarily about her son. And I agree with you that it was a little bit sort of, oh, we're going there when she started doing that, given what we've seen coming out of the Twitter feeds at the Trump Tower from time to time. But how do you think was she effective? And I guess my biggest question, Tony, is will they, if this doesn't go the way that they would like it to go, will they regret not bringing her out there more and earlier?
I, for one, have always believed Melania should have been on the campaign trail earlier. I think she is extraordinarily effective and a very sympathetic character in telling the personal side of Donald Trump, who is a celebrity in many regards, and people sometimes draw their own conclusions. But when you see the family side, as we saw with the kids during the convention, it really does give a much more positive aspect. I think what Melania, frankly, didn't want to do is put herself in the middle of this entire campaign, which has been largely negative toward her husband from the left. And look, she's been very honest. She has a son who's 10 years old. That's her priority. I understand that. You know, not every political spouse goes into the arena as fiercely as a warrior. But she's coming in at the exact right time and in the exact right place. This whole Women for Trump effort is targeting areas like suburban Philadelphia, Montgomery, the Ring counties, Delaware, Chester, Bucks, because this is where you have to convince enough women to support Donald Trump, and then, therefore, you have a larger chance to win the state. Look at Ohio, where now the recent polling shows a lot of women are supporting Donald Trump almost equally to Hillary Clinton.
I do think that it makes a difference. I mean, I know women who live in these suburbs who are on the fence, and I think when they do see the family, it does have meaning to them. And, you know, Melania Trump, I think you see her at first, and she's sort of intimidating. She's so beautiful and, you know, supermodel and everything. But when she speaks, she's very sincere. And she talks about her feelings for the country. She said, I came to America, but that wasn't enough for me. I wanted to be an American. And I thought that was very powerful.
You know, I think she's got a fantastic personal story. I agree largely with everything that Tony said. She is a huge asset, as is Ivanka. Look, Hillary Clinton's firewall in this election is white, college-educated women. She's up by 27 points. Romney won that same demographic by 6. And so in order for Donald Trump to win, he's got to get those people on his side. Melania is a great example of that. Ivanka's a great example of that. I don't, for the life of me, understand
why they went after more. Yeah. I completely agree. Now let's turn to a woman who has very much embraced the role of being at the heart and center of politics, and that's Uma Abedin, who I think everybody has some sympathy for. I mean, what a couple of years it's been for this woman. She has been through quite a bit. She was basically in hiding over the last several days that it came out. You know, I mean, you couldn't write the twist to this story that the thousands and thousands of emails that they found were on a laptop that was used by Anthony Weiner, I think someone whose behavior is despicable and who is still being investigated by the FBI. So she made an appearance last night. She did come out at a fundraiser in Washington, D.C. I think we have some video of that. But, you know, Tony, you suggest that there's more to the next shoe to drop in the Uma Abedin story, perhaps.
There's absolutely no doubt, Martha. If you look at the fact that the FBI is already dismissing this idea that most of these emails are duplicates. A lot of these emails are brand new information, according to reading the tea leaves coming out from the FBI. Uma Abedin has been at the intersection of Clinton Inc. and Clinton World. She worked at the State Department and the Foundation at one point simultaneously. So 3 things are going to happen ultimately with this investigation. And yes, on a human level, I sympathize. But these are choices she made to blindly align herself with Hillary Clinton in potentially the detriment of her own family, particularly her son, her 6-year-old son. She could either basically get away with it, which is doubtful. She could either cooperate with the state, which I think is probably the most damning of all opportunities, because she does want to protect her family.
And there's nobody who knows more about what goes on in Clinton world than Uma Abedin, and there's no doubt that they would want to speak to her.
Correct. Or she falls on the sword, which I don't see her necessarily
necessarily having the interest in doing. And Hillary's been treating her, I think, rather shabbily. She calls her a staffer now. I mean, Huma Abedin, anybody who understands her role in Clinton world, is hardly just a staffer. She's the vice chair, actually, of the Clinton campaign.
You know, I think it's really unfair to say that Huma Abedin's child is somehow there's a detriment because of Hillary Clinton. There's a detriment because his father is, I can't say words that I would want to describe his father on national television, but the reality is his father is somebody who put him in a horrible situation, was lying in bed with him while texting with a 15-year-old girl. And so if you want to blame somebody, let's not blame Hillary Clinton for what's going on to Huma Abedin's son. The other thing I want to say is...
I was suggesting that she won't fall on the sword maybe because of that.
You don't know what the tea leaves are in this FBI investigation and what the emails say because they just got a subpoena to read them. So unless the FBI read those emails without a subpoena, which would be illegal, we actually don't know what those emails are duplicates or not because the FBI hasn't investigated
But we
yet.
do know nonetheless that they were on that device.
They were on that device. The question is how did they get on that device? Did Anthony Weiner put that on the device?
All of our
Who
stuff
knows?
is everywhere, right? With your iCloud. I mean, you know, you could think that you know where everything is, but unless you have tracked every single device, and it is surprising that the FBI wouldn't have done that and cleared every single device out of all of these people's houses is pretty interesting. But more shoes to drop, to be sure. Interesting stuff. Thank you very much, both of you. Great to see you both.
So, Martha, both sides, both campaigns mapping out their expected route to victory. Several states very much in play as we sit 4 days away. Which way will they fall come Tuesday? We'll show you the keys to victory on the board in a moment, and this is interesting stuff, so stay tuned on that.
Speaking of interesting, factor by 10 points, but not taking anything for granted in his home state.
Last two nominees together, 4 days now until the election. Guy Benson, political editor, townhall.com, and a Fox News contributor. Chris Steyerwalt, Fox News digital policy editor and host of I'll Tell You What. How you guys doing?
Good.
Hey, Bill. I want to show our viewers, and I want you guys to analyze the morsels of knowledge or the morsels of historical significance that we've seen, okay, so far in these campaigns. Take it back to 2012, Mitt Romney, Barack Obama. Let's go in here to Florida, right? In the state of Florida, southeastern part of the state, you had about 26% of the total vote 4 years ago come from these three counties, Miami-Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach. If you were to pop up here to Pennsylvania, southeastern part of the state, this is where Hillary Clinton will end her campaign. You had 20% of the total vote from the state come from these 4 or 5 counties in the southeastern part of Pennsylvania. This is the city of Philadelphia. Steyerwalt, look at this. I think the overall result was less than 300,000 votes statewide. And Barack Obama had almost 600,000 votes in the city of Philadelphia compared to Mitt Romney, who was just shy of 100,000. You start looking at the map right now, and you start thinking about what's important and why and where you make the margin of difference. I mean, what do you think about 4 days away right now?
Well, 4 days we start to, as you say, it's not, the polls are fascinating and it's all very interesting, but the historical data about how these counties vote and how Trump behaves the same and how he behaves differently than a typical Republican nominee. So, for example, in Pennsylvania, why hasn't he done well in Pennsylvania? He hasn't done well in Pennsylvania, not because Hillary Clinton's going to do as well in the city of Philadelphia as Barack Obama did. She probably won't. But because Trump is doing worse in the suburbs of Philadelphia. Now, he can hope that the counterweight on the other side of the state in the collar counties around Pittsburgh, around Allegheny County, that the Republicans have been doing better there, and they're more populous, blue-collar suburbanites. So in that way, Trump has hoped that he could bring Pennsylvania into balance, but I don't think there's enough to offset how poorly he's done with women in the suburbs.
Interesting on that. Guy, let me just show you another thing. Remember the primary when Trump rolled through Pennsylvania? This is Lucerne County, okay? This is blue, all right? It's Democratic. Trump picked up about 77% of the votes in Lucerne County during the primary. I'll take you over to Washington County, the southwest of Pittsburgh, and this is, here's Steyerwalt there. You know, Romney got 57% of the vote in that county. This is energy, it is coal, it is steel, it is blue collar, and you think about whether or not these counties can flip a little bit. Guy, go ahead and riff on that. Then I'll show you another example.
Yeah, well, I think that's right, Bill, because Donald Trump can appeal to a different type of voter than Mitt Romney did, particularly these sort of blue-collar Reagan Democrats that we hear so much about. I think what's interesting, because you were showing Philadelphia earlier, there's a reason why Hillary Clinton and her running mate and Barack Obama and Michelle Obama and Bill Clinton are all going to be in Pennsylvania on Monday. They are closing the deal, or they're trying to at least, in the Philadelphia area, in that media market. I think it's because, A, there's no early voting in Pennsylvania, so they want that sort of that wave to crest on Monday into Tuesday of enthusiasm. But there's a chance, and some people are saying, maybe the Democrats don't feel quite as secure about Pennsylvania as the polls would indicate they ought to be. That's one interesting thing to keep an eye on. The other one, Bill, very quickly, since you showed Florida before, if you look at the early vote, which only tells you so much, right now, Florida's overtaken the early vote from 2012 already, and Republicans have a very slim lead down there. It looks like it's going to be another nail-biter, surprise, surprise, in Florida.
All right, point taken on all that, too. Let me show you guys. I don't know if this is a normal traditional election or not, right, Chris? I mean, you think about that. I mean, in a normal election here 4 years ago, Trumbull County, this is deep blue.
Yep.
You know, I mean, Trump's been campaigning here. It's steel country. It's Youngstown to the south, and then here in the central part of the state, you've got Delaware County that went 62% for Romney. It's, you know, it's growing. It's suburban, affluent, white voters. Do they go for Trump at 61.7%?
No, they don't go for Trump at 61%. But you, when you talk about the Mahoning Valley, you're talking about how Donald Trump is ahead in Ohio. Because what's going to happen in Ohio is that down in the southern tier of the state, not just on the Cincinnati and Dayton side, but across into the Appalachian tier, all the way over to Ironton and whatnot, that part of the state is going to go so hard for Trump, it's going to, they'll have to find a new color of red in the Crayola box for how red that's going to be. Trump is not going to do as well as a typical Republican does in the suburbs and in Franklin County and in and around Columbus, which hurts him. But boy, he's going to do great with the Democrats, the blue-collar white Democrats in the northern tier of the state, maybe all the way over to Toledo.
You know, and also, Bill, I would say that one of the reasons I think that you're seeing Donald Trump outperforming Mitt Romney in a place like Ohio is that there are concerns that you hear about from Democrats about turnout among African Americans. I know they've made up some ground. They were really struggling in Cuyahoga County just a couple days ago. But overall, there are worries among Democrats that, especially in Ohio, African Americans and also places like North Carolina aren't turning out and will not turn out for Hillary Clinton the way they did for President Obama.
Can both of you see a monitor right now, by the way? I want to show both of you and our viewers at home. Take you back to 2004 with Kerry and Bush. You know, this is kind of a traditional modern-day political map. I think we'd agree on that. You're red in the middle and you're blue on the ends. And look what happened when Barack Obama beat John McCain 4 years later. It's blue in Colorado, New Mexico. It's blue down here in the southeast of Florida, North Carolina, Virginia. 4 years later, just a few subtle moves in the map, right? 2008 to 2012. It's just Indiana and North Carolina that Romney flipped. We don't have a sense just yet, Chris, of what this map will look like come Wednesday morning.
Right, and you could have, for example, for the first time ever, well, no, you could have a Republican who won Ohio, and this isn't the first time ever, but a Republican who won Ohio but didn't become president. And that's something that we don't see. The map that we know has been basically in place since 1992. Because of Donald Trump's strong appeal with Democrats and strong appeal basically with white voters without college degrees, states that have white populations of more than 75% and states in which more than 75% of the adult population do not have college degrees are a killing field for Hillary Clinton because the Democratic Party abandoned working class white voters a while ago, and he's going to do very well there. So we could, in fact, be looking at a brand new map in which the Republicans are the party of the populist white voter, of the downscale white voter, and the Democrats are suburban whites and minorities.
Guy, can you do that in 15 seconds, quickly?
15 seconds. 3 steps for Trump is the clearest path for him. Win all the Romney states, add Florida, Ohio, and Iowa, and then you need 11+ more electoral votes. A couple ways possibly to get there. Data makes it tough, but it's plausible at least.
All right, gentlemen, thank you. I keep coming back to North Carolina. I don't know why, but I keep coming back here.
You're right.
See you later, guys. Thank you, Guy. Thank you.
I suggest